into the truth frequency.
Your protection from deception. This is Truth Frequency Radio.
A few months ago, I woke up and I suddenly got it. I understood suddenly how thought was just an illusory thing.
Beyond your presidents and your prime ministers, they understand how reality works.
You and I appear to exist in three dimensions. Up and down, front and back, left to right. Many physicists now believe that reality is not, in fact, three-dimensional. Instead, they think that the fundamental core of reality comes written in two-dimensional sheets, an illusion much like a hologram.
Free your mind. Fighting for humanity, one mind at a time. It's the Freedom Link with Joe Joseph.
Welcome, everybody, to this edition of the Freedom Link. This 28th day of September, 2017. I'm Joe Joseph, along with Johnny King and the fish in the hizzy. And I got to tell you, it's wonderful to broadcast from the land of the free and the home of the brave, where freedom runs about and it just effervesces. I mean, that's what everybody's been fighting about here lately.
Freedom is subjective, Mr. Joseph.
How is that so?
Depending on where you're sitting.
And how is that?
Depending on where you're sitting in as to what state, because what may be permissible in one area.
Stop. Wait. Permissible? Right there, you just blew the whole freedom thing out of the water. What?
Well, that in itself is an illusion. That's what you're told when you're when you're a child growing up in the state indoctrination centers, but in reality, you're not free. I mean, even in the state, depending on what county you're sitting in, what may be permissible in one county may not even be permissible in another county.
Very true.
My good buddy Fish is finding that out, but we'll get into more of that in a little bit. But one of the things that I wanted to talk about is what everybody is talking about, and it goes along the line with freedom, is freedom of expression and freedom of speech and freedom of choice. What's going on in the NFL and people taking to the knee during the national anthem. So I thought it would be a good idea, since you're a Navy veteran. And yes, and an advocate for the Constitution and the Bill of Rights.
Yes, I am. I'm a constitutional pirate.
Speech. Yes. Flying that big Gadsden flag on top of your good ship Lollipop. So I want to get your perspective on things, because I've been talking to some people at work and talking to the people at large, and there's mixed reviews about what is going on.
Man, it's because it's either you buy into the propaganda or you don't. Okay, so first I think what we need is a little bit of a history lesson, because this is one of the biggest problems that I have with society today. Is we are born and raised to love and live by a collectivist mindset. We grow up that way. It is from the very, very beginnings of our lives. It's rooted in our society. It's rooted in the way you're brought up in the family structure of today, which is totally counter to the way that humanity was designed to operate like. Now, I will say that we are tribal. We are a tribal species. Always have been, always will be. That's why we seem to want to gravitate to groups. That's why that we always find or tie our identities to objects, things, movements, things that you don't feel so alone, because people don't like to feel alone. You know, it's a kind of an isolating feeling to feel alone. And the powers that shouldn't be know this. So they utilize this approach to better control the masses. And they do so now with mass communication. They're able to do so better than ever before. And they've got this thing licked, man. They've got it down to a science. But if you want to know when it all started, you know, the first thing they have to do when they embarked upon this was they had to start a campaign to where people became less reliant upon themselves and the creator and more upon the state. Because if you could get people to rely on the state, now the state has something to hold over their head. And also, if you can put it into the indoctrination centers of the children, where the children go to school, then from a very early age, you can really kind of set it all off. Not to mention the fact that even the whole holiday structure, believe it or not, plays into this whole agenda. But it was 1848 where a guy by the name of Moses Mordecai Marx Levi, a.k.a. Karl Marx, said this. Now, mind you, he penned the Communist Manifesto, right? So if you take a look at the 10 planks in the Communist Manifesto, you'll find that all 10 planks are already firmly entrenched in our society here in the United States, okay? The land of the free and the home of the brave. So the whole Red Scare thing was a bunch of bull. It was meant to just kind of distract people while all this stuff was being put into place. People didn't even realize it because it's all done for your benefit, right? But he said that we must war against all prevailing ideas of religion, of the state, of country, of patriotism. The idea of God is the keynote of a perverted civilization. It must be destroyed. Now, you have to understand that the patriotism that he's speaking of and the patriotism that you see being displayed are two different types of patriotism, okay? He's talking about a war on real patriotism. That means standing for the ideals, the ideas or the foundational ideas or concepts of this country and defending them. The flag has nothing to do with that, okay? Then you take a look at a guy by the name of Francis Bellamy. Francis Bellamy was the guy that wrote the Pledge of Allegiance. Now, the Pledge of Allegiance is where the flag worship really came into play. Didn't really come into play with the national anthem. National anthem was, Francis Scott Key penned it as he was watching the fort that he was a prisoner at was under attack. So he saw the rockets, he saw the cannon, all this kind of stuff. He wrote a nice song. That's great. We made it our national anthem. The issue that you have spawns from Francis Bellamy. Francis Bellamy was a Christian socialist. He was a socialist in the 19th century when socialism was really starting to kick into gear. And there was a huge movement afoot, late 19th, early 20th century, to really drive home the socialist message. You have to remember that the Bolshevik Revolution and Vladimir Lenin, he was supported by the New York bankers. He even said it himself. The New York and European bankers were pivotal in the takeover of Russia. In 1917, he said this with the aid of financiers in New York City and London, Vladimir Lenin overthrew the government of Russia, the Tsar. And this is what he said about the links between capitalists and communism. He said, there also exists another alliance, at first glance a strange one, a surprising one, but if you think about it, in fact, one which is well-grounded and easy to understand, and this is the alliance between our communist leaders and your capitalists. So you got to remember what the Hegelian dialectic is all about, because it's employed all the time. The Hegelian dialectic was created by George Hegel in 1821, and basically it's a process by which all of these objectives are achieved. So you start a crisis, and then there's an enormous public outcry that something has to be done, and you offer a solution that brings about the changes you really wanted all along, but which people would be initially unwilling to accept. We saw it with the Patriot Act, Hegelian dialectic. They tried to pass a version of the Patriot Act prior to 2001, and senators and congressmen were like, oh, hell no, we're not going to do that. 2001 comes along, 9/11, and next thing you know, Patriot Act passes with flying colors, You also throw the whole name patriot in there. And of course, that word gives an image in people's heads. And all of a sudden, how can I not support it? Even though it has nothing to do with patriotism. Same with Edward Bernays and rebranding the Department of War, Department of Defense, because people were war weary. Okay, well, we're not going to war. We're basically defending freedom and democracy. That's how they sell it. So let's now go to the flag. The flag is nothing but a pretty piece of cloth with stripes and stars on it. That's all it is. It has nothing to do with who you are. It has nothing to do with your identity. It is merely a symbol that represents the United States that before all of these things happened, it used to be family crests and things like that. You go to Israel, you look at the Star of David, has nothing to do with the state of Israel, has nothing to do with biblical history, has nothing to do with the Torah. It has everything to do with the House of Rothschild. It's a family crest. That's all it is. You know, when the Stars and Stripes were created, it popped into somebody's mind. They made it. It represented something that obviously doesn't exist anymore. So let's be real. And as a result, now people are getting all butthurt because people don't want to respect the flag. Well, if you want to talk about what it really represents, well, we can do that because I think that's pretty important to talk about what that flag actually represents. Not the propaganda that people spew that say what it represents, but more so, what does it really represent? The American flag, if you stand up and you bow to it, you worship it, almost akin to idolatry, if you will, represents secret FISA courts. It represents the government support of ISIS in Syria, the CIA funding, arming, training, and executing operations with ISIS. It represents laws that infringe on your Second Amendment rights, the right to bear arms. It represents targeting your political opposition with the IRS. That's right. Government using these entities, these agencies to target political opposition. That's the land of the free and the home of the brave, right? How about sending America's youth to fight in preemptive and unconstitutional wars of aggression that just never end? Yeah, that's what your flag represents. Remember, it's not just to us, too. It's to the rest of the world, okay? It may mean something to you in your little high-in-the-sky fairy tale apple pie land, but here, in reality, it represents something different. It also represents career politicians, something that was never meant to be, and a powerful central government, something that was always a problem, even from the onset of this country, because you had two very distinct factions, the Federalists and the Democratic Republicans, that fought for and against a strong central government. The Federalists being the Hamiltonians, and of course the Democratic Republicans being the Jeffersonians. Then of course you've got the flag representing killing family pets during no-knock raids at the wrong address. Happens how many times? Shouldn't happen because the Constitution's supposed to protect against that, but let's not get into details. Also, shooting unarmed people who are having perhaps a mental illness crisis. That's what your flag represents. Also, bailing out the bankers. Yeah, that's what your flag represents. And taking money from poor people in America and using it to prop up rich dictators, calling it foreign aid. That's what your flag represents. And also mandating that people must purchase a product or they'll face penalties, i.e. Obamacare. That's what your flag represents. So don't tell me about the land of the free and freedom and democracy and sacrifice. Oh, by the way, I sacrificed 6 years of my life for that flag, right? So I have a right to be able to, and so do you. You have a right to do whatever you want with that piece of cloth. It is your choice to do what you want and express yourself how you want. You want to burn it? You want to wipe your butt with it? I don't care. It's a piece of cloth. And that's my 2 cents on it.
Gee, Joe, after all that sort of makes me want to go in the bathroom and wipe my ass with it. Wow.
Well, there you go. So, I mean, now go ahead. Give me an argument for it, please.
I would.
Well, I think that I think a lot of people do identify with the American flag when they go into a foreign country and they say they are American, that that one of the things that comes to mind is the Old Glory. That's how they identify themselves. Is not an American from Texas or an American from whatever state that they may reside. They don't identify themselves as being from the Republic of Michigan or the Republic of Florida. They identify themselves as Americans and old red, white, and blue.
See, that's the problem, though. When you go overseas, John,
the problem.
When you go overseas, that our behavior, our imperialistic behavior, our I know what's best for you behavior that we learn here because that's what happens to us, right? We have non-representing representatives and bureaucrats that think they know what's best for you. Look at what's happening up in Michigan, Fish. They know what's best for you, right? So they'll just go and raid all those dispensaries against the will of the people because they know what's best for you. You can't have this. No.
Joe, the biggest thing in Michigan here is now we're going on 9 years of this. I mean, if you follow the state of Michigan and the Michigan State Police's records and paperwork for the last 9 years, it's a conspiracy. It's a complete conspiracy, and it's all about money and control and power.
That's right. You have a lobby. You have a private prison industrial complex that requires a certain amount of turnover. There's turnover that always happens. They've got to have fresh new people to populate those prisons. If they don't, then it is going to be bad news for their whole business plan and their structure. So they work in cahoots. They get their people elected. They buy off the non-representing representatives. Jeff Sessions has to be hip deep in with the private prison industrial complex because he's the guy that wants to bring back all the minimum mandatory sentences for petty drug crimes, which shouldn't even exist because it's not their right to tell you what you can and can't put in your body, which is your property. Again, that's what your flag represents. Your flag represents a lot of things that doesn't hold true to the foundational documents that we all agreed upon, not us personally, but all of the founding fathers agreed upon when this started up. And over the course of time, because the culture of convenience makes people apathetic, people haven't been paying attention, or they fall prey to the propaganda, that patriotic propaganda bull that they use. Football. Yeah, and they tie sports to it too. Because
I'm distracted over here.
Well, think about it. What did they say? What's more American than football or NASCAR and apple pie? You know what I mean? So they tie these things that, again, people tie their identity to. Sports franchises. People love to tie their identity to a sports franchise. I'm a Red Sox fan. I'm a Patriots fan. I'm this, I'm that. So what? Who are you? Is that who you are? Think about that. And when you do tie your identity to that kind of stuff, you just don't realize how shallow that is, and how vulnerable it makes you.
I tend to look at this from a different angle. All these people that were armchair patriots, well, they're still armchair patriots for the most part, but a lot of these people that had no clue as to what was going on in this country are now very upset, turning off their TVs. They're looking around and they're saying, holy crap, what the heck happened? And
there's a silver lining.
They're starting to see reality. Reality's kicking in for them, and they're just not liking it. So I'm looking at it from the point of view that this is an awakening experience for a lot of people. So I'm trying to remain positive about it.
Well, I mean, you can. And who knows? Maybe it will bring about something like that, right? Maybe it will bring about an awakening. But you have to make sure. You have to make sure that that awakening is grounded in fact and grounded in what it's. You don't want people to, at the end, okay, I'm aware of this, but we see this, or it brings about this environment. See, because you don't want it to be a one step forward, two steps back, or something like that, which this can very well end up being if people just keep,
playing the feelings game.
Yeah, exactly.
You see, if you want to take to the knee during the anthem, I'm cool with that. Everybody has their own reasons, and we have the right to freedom of and self-expression in this country.
Damn right.
But is where I draw the line, I think, is if you're doing it to disrespect John or Jane Q. Public in the military that died for your rights to do that.
But see, stop there. Is that what really happened? Let's just ask that question real quick, because that is a programmed response. Because let's take a look at the facts. Is that what people truly died for when they went to war? Or were they just pawns that got duped, just like we've been duped, and just like you use that same reasoning that really isn't true when you really analyze, why did we go to war? Why did they participate? Why? Because they got drafted. 80% of them just got drafted. That's the other thing. We don't have that mindset. But you have to understand, a lot of people didn't willingly sign up. They weren't and had no intention of signing up. They were forced to sign up when it was Vietnam, when it was Korea, when it was World War II, when it was World War I. A lot of them went against their will. It wasn't all pie in the sky. I'm going to save America. We entered these wars.
Continuing with what I'm saying is, yeah, you're absolutely correct. But a lot of these people that join the military willingly don't understand that they're going to fight in a foreign war for the Rothschild banks or for the corrupt system. They're under the delusion that they are fighting for the red, white, and blue and for America.
Okay, so if it's delusional, then it's not
because
true.
They went for all the right reasons.
But they were wrong.
Reasons.
But here's the thing, though. Just because they went for what they perceived was all the right reason, does it make it right? And the answer is no. It doesn't make it right.
Yes, because they had that intention.
The road to hell is paved by good intentions. It doesn't matter.
I know. I travel that road every day.
That's what I'm trying to say, is that it's just all lies. And just because people buy the lie doesn't make it right. I committed murder, right? But I didn't realize I did it.
Whoa, Joe, don't drink the Kool-Aid.
Just don't drink the Kool-Aid. Exactly. And if you do, you see it for what it is. And that's the thing. Okay, so that's why these rights that are not negotiable, you don't need anybody's permission for rights. It's not a privilege. That's why you have free will and the ability to, let's just say, articulate your reasons for doing something or communicate to other people. And if that means you don't want to stand for the national anthem, if that means you don't want to respect a piece of cloth, because I don't, then guess what? It's okay. And if people get pissed off by that, that just goes to show you more than anything else. It is a cut and dry piece of evidence to show the collectivist programming that has been just ingrained into everybody else. And if you want a good example of that, look no farther than North Korea. And I don't fault that. If that's the way that country and that's the way they want to live, then so be it. They should be able to live the way they want to live. And if they want to live all marching together in unison, all paying respect to the all-knowing, all-omniscient Kim Jong-un, then so be it. That's their choice. But here in America, the ground rules are we are all sovereign individuals, all sovereign human beings that are men and women of our own free will that can do whatever the heck it is we want to do as long as we respect the rights of others. And if we could just do that, damn, this would be a damn good country. But the problem is...
There's the key.
The problem is...
others.
That's right. The problem is, I know what's best for you, John King.
That's right. And if you know what's best for fish and you know what's best for me, then you're not respecting the rights of fish or me. You're trampling on those rights.
That's right. It boils down to that. It's like I've always said. Yeah, you've got this you've got this thing recently with the whole end of the world. And you got so many people that are just crying out for this construct, for this world to end. And I'm just taken aback because the answer is so simple. And to be honest with you, you know, everybody that reads the Bible and especially those that use the Bible to project these dates, these idiotic dates. Okay. The answer to this whole thing is in there. And it kind of goes like this. Love each other, number one, and respect one another, number two. If you can just do those two things every day, if everybody could just wake up and be resigned to doing those two things to everybody they interact with every day, all of this would stop tomorrow. All of it would stop tomorrow. It's just that simple. We'll get into this a little bit more because I got to talk to John about this. These post-September 23rd predictions. I guess the end of the world is now in October. We'll be right back after these messages. Don't go away.
You're listening to the Truth Frequency Radio Network.
No hate, no hype, no fear.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back.
We are back. Where are we, Johnny?
We're still on Earth because the world didn't end, and I'm really disappointed because I had my bags packed.
Did you?
I had my lawn all mowed. I had my lawn all mowed. I had a brand new bong ready for that Area 51
the
stuff.
golden.
Crystal clean.
Yeah.
Absolutely beautiful. I had a landing area for the ships to land in, a big welcome sign in 3 different languages, but nothing happened.
Damn it! I know. And you know, I got to tell you, I was probably the most vocal skeptic out there. I got attacked pretty bad when I kind of poo-pooed the whole Nibiru thing, and of course, Nibiru is very interesting because the only place you can see it is on YouTube. Can't see it anywhere else. You know, God forbid, with a telescope or at least 1 or 2 astronomers out there, maybe throw something up that's credible. Nah, nothing like that. Then I get, well, you know, there has been this uptick in earthquakes and volcanoes. Yeah, I know. And yeah, you do the sun and everything else. I get it. We're also traversing the galactic plane. That could have something to do with it. Not poo-pooing the whole Nibiru thing, but of course, I'm just trying to say, when a thing like the moon, an object like the moon, can wreak havoc on our weather and our tides, you would have to think that a big brown dwarf coming close would be a much more violent type of interaction. And I'm just not seeing it. It's just not seeing it. So
sounds like a relief.
Yeah, so September 23rd comes and goes. But according to CBS Philadelphia, David Meade has said, no, it's still on. It's just been moved to October. That's right. Meade predicted that a rogue planet named Nibiru would slam into the Earth on September 23rd. And, of course, bring about this global apocalypse and the rapture, if you will, Now, I've come out in vocal opposition to this whole Planet X thing, and also to the setting of days, because it really does make you look like a horse's ass. It just really does. It's anybody that's in it for the right reasons knows that you don't set dates. Joe. If you see somebody set a date, Fish, instantly run away as fast as you can.
Joe, September was good for me. September was good for me.
Good, I'm glad.
I can't do October. I can't.
Well, don't.
I can't do I
You'll
can
be
do
here,
February.
buddy.
February.
I can't, personally, anybody could die at any time. I'm not, but I'm saying, if everything remains status quo, you'll be here, dude. I mean, and if we're not, what are we going to do about it? If it's a cataclysm or a world extinction level event, guess what? There's nothing you can do about it. So the best thing I kind of gave this advice, if you're living a good life, and you're doing the best job you can and living the best life you can and trying to be as selfless as you can, and it's increasingly more difficult in this world, then just try to be the most righteous person you can. You'll be ready. It doesn't matter when the end comes at that point.
Joe, what if it did come? What if the rapture happened and we don't know anybody that got taken?
Okay.
Uh-oh.
Then we're all screwed.
Oopsie.
I just had a thought, which is amazing.
Go ahead.
We're filled full of this propaganda, which is good for the military-industrial complex, or good for the state. I'll just leave it at a broad spectrum. What if all this doomsday hearsay is good for the prepper industrial complex?
Because
it brings in people that, oh my God, did you hear about this big brown dwarf that's coming our way, and we're going to die? So now everyone goes out and spends thousands of dollars.
Exactly,
on
but now
dehydrated food.
But I'm so glad you brought that up, because, and this is the most, Christianity is the biggest perpetrator of this. And believe it or not, their blueprint is used over and over and over and over again, and used with success as it pertains to making money. However, what you come to find out is the larger they get, the more money it takes, and the more shady it becomes. It's really, you look at like a Joel Osteen, you look at that whole thing, it's really disgusting. From a true Bible believing perspective, it's an insult. It really is. It's a travesty. Some people will say, no, it's not, and he preaches that whole, the money, the materialism thing, and very predatory indeed, so my thing is, as these organizations, as these things get bigger, it requires more and more and more and more money. Same thing you see in independent media. The bigger independent media outlets have to sell you snake oil. They have to sell you supplements. They have to sell you this and that to maintain that bigger infrastructure. And it's just an age-old type of thing, John. So when you said about, selling emergency food and all that kind of stuff, yeah, of course it makes people panic, and of course it does. But my thing is if you're spiritually in the right place, and that means just, follow your heart. Your heart can tell you a lot of things. If you just listen to it, you'll be okay. It's okay, But that's the thing is people rely on these brick and mortar. They go there. It's doctrine of men. Buy our crap. You have to tithe this much. It's a damn scam, dude. It's a big scam being perpetrated on humanity. It really is.
It's like timeshares.
Yeah, totally. Spiritual timeshares. Johnny,
what really makes me chuckle is like I'll tune into some alternative radio, and I'll hear, "Hello, everybody," and today our guest is Mr. Joe Joseph. He's just written a book on the end of the world, which is to take place in in February.
What?
You can purchase his book at Amazon and all fine book retail centers, online and offline, for $59.95, and read all about.
That's right. You will never hear me of any in written or oral form ever set a date. Ever. No. No. It's like Bible 101. The one that everybody kind of keys in on, because they always key on the end, so God, what is it? No one knows the day or the hour but the Father himself. That's it. Just one, the Creator. That's it. Only he knows.
Using you as an example, that just makes me chuckle, because if the world was going to end and one person actually did know that we were going to get hit by an asteroid and the world was going to be split into two, why do I want to take my $59.95 and go out and read a book about it?
Damn right, dude. You know what I'm going to do with that? That's right. We'll go get a half an ounce or something like that and just try and smoke it in about 10 seconds. That's it.
I agree.
And just go out floating on a cloud. That's
Smiling.
it. Yeah, that's right. Go out smiling. It's okay. Everything's going to be all right.
Thank God for Mary.
That's right. I mean, that's why I can't believe people get so wrapped up about that. Why? What are you so afraid of? If it's the end, it's the end. Personally, I don't
about it.
I don't believe in this whole 7-year tribulation garbage that they spew. I don't think we'll be able to know when that happens. We're living in it now, if you ask me. I mean, look at the world, dude. The Bible says, okay, it's going to be unlike a time ever before in human history. Okay, look at the world. It is a mess. It's an absolute mess. And I mean, I guess the more civilized we get, the more messed up it is. I don't know. I think it's coming, but I just don't think it's, if we're not going to know when the tribulation is, we're going to be in it. We are in it.
It's all just a bad infomercial anymore.
Exactly.
It's a horrible one.
Just love each other and respect one another. If we did that, there would be no end. We'd be able to just go on.
Everybody's in the audience going, I've got 3 of them.
That's all. I mean, could you imagine just if everybody lived by the old adage, live and let live? Yeah, Holy moly, man.
Let's stop killing everything and let's learn to preserve everything.
Yeah.
In a balanced ecosystem. And let's take care of this planet like I think we were intended to do.
Exactly, dude. And let's dust off all that alien technology that we've got, too. Let's be real with the people and say, hey, you know what? These other entities exist. And by the way, we have their technology and we're going to put it to work for the people. And now there won't be any need for oil and there won't be any need for all of this other garbage that we have to pay for, because it'll all be there for us. How about we do that and just implement it and do away with money and just live and let the AI and the robots farm the food and all that crap. And we can just go down to the beach with a big old tube. You know what I mean?
Watch the waves
just
come
something
in.
like that. Why can't it be like that? Serious.
I think that's what part of the problem is too, is because the petroleum oligarchs are losing their power, and the techno oligarchs are trying to come into power. And the two are actually fighting, and there's a big in war.
Think about how old and how long the old money have held on to that control. I mean, long time, John. Well over 100 years. It's not like 150. So they don't necessarily want to just give it up. I understand that, but I'm telling you, the robber barons of today, your Zuckerbergs and the Twitters and the Google board, Eric Schmidt's, all them, they are infinitely more powerful today than the robber barons of the 19th and 20th century. Your Carnegies and your Rockefellers, the Fords, the Guggenheims. You're talking unbelievably more powerful because they can control they can basically social engineer. And that's real. That's where this all comes together, is that all these people that get mad at people that express themselves when they don't want and don't support the things that this country's doing, so they show it. Those that get mad about that, that's a product of the conditioning, and the social engineering.
Those people can control nations by raising and lowering the price of oil, and can actually devastate nations by cutting off the oil supplies needed for their industry.
Yeah, but see, then this is where the tech guys have them cornered. Because if they do that, how long is it going to take before the conversion kits come out for your vehicles, provided by the Elon Musks and the tech companies? The electric conversion kits, or the converting to different fuels.
Well, that's the problem right now, Joe, is we have a petrochemical war machine that's gobbling up trillions of dollars behind it.
And then you have the tech that's coming in and basically phasing them out.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt there's a lot of people that there's a transfer in power, but I guess what I'm trying to say is that the robber barons of today are infinitely more powerful than the Rockefellers and the Carnegies of old. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
I really do. I think that's just the case.
It's the same families, Joe.
Of course it is. It all goes back to it. Sure.
That's how they manipulate everything. Is they got that records. They have the records from our, and they know the cycles of the weather, and they're using that little bit of knowledge, and they know what's going to happen. I mean, I'm 47, and I know that this year is going to be a cold winter because we're due for it. So you watch, Joe, and there's going to be a lot of snow. You just know. You know what I mean? I feel it in my bones already.
Yeah, I do too. I can tell you right now, up in New England, we're kind of bracing for it, because you just know, you feel that it's going to be kind of, I don't know. You just feel it in your bones almost, like, oh no.
Why did you and John and Popeye wake me up? I was asleep.
Sorry.
Working so hard, I mean, I was killing myself.
I didn't mean to. Yeah, I did. Sorry. It's John's fault.
Thank God.
He made me do it.
And thank God for Mary.
No, I'll tell you what. It really is a miracle thing. Anyway, what else do we got here? Oh, yeah. Speaking of Mary.
Talk about Michigan a little bit.
Speaking of Mary, right? You were talking about Michigan. Yeah. Well, did you know that the FBI just stopped publishing data on America's ridiculous marijuana arrest rates?
Oh, I'd love to hear some of that.
They stopped. Yeah, they actually stopped. As a matter of fact, Tom Engel, who's a contributor of Forbes, wrote about this increase in drug arrests across the country, noting that while in 2015 there were 1.488 million drug arrests, the highest number of arrests out of all offenses, according to the FBI. In 2016, the agency reported 1.572 million arrests for drugs, a figure that again accounted for the highest number of arrests. Now, according to the 2015 data, 83.9% of drug arrests were for possession. 38.6% of those possession arrests were over cannabis, the highest of any drug, 38.6%. Now, aside from that troubling increase in arrests from 2015 to 16, is the fact that this year the FBI didn't include a table breaking down the types of drug arrests as it did in 2015. But anyway, this Tom Engel communicated with the FBI, and he was able to get that statistic. And marijuana possession busts comprised 37.36% of all reported drug arrests in 2016. And cannabis manufacturing arrests accounted for another 4.18%. So these percentages, although down compared to the 38% in 2015, still remain extremely high. We're in a country that has basically rejected this war on weed, or even the war on drugs altogether. But that's the numbers. And it's generated by the feds going in and your local sheriffs and police departments cooperating with them. And the way it's happening is the feds are holding their federal funding as like collateral, if you will.
Yeah, collateral, exactly.
Where if you don't participate, you don't get your money. And, because here it is again, you take the state's dirty money and you hire more people, and you have more equipment to maintain, and you want that military capability. Well, guess what? That comes at a cost. And now all of a sudden, the government's got you by the balls because you can't operate without their money. So now you're forced to do the state's bidding, even though you may not want to do it. Because I got to tell you, I know a lot of police officers that don't care about marijuana, but they do it because they have to uphold the law. Well,
up here, that's all their bread and butter up here.
I know. Believe me, they're compensated handsomely for it. Handsomely.
They not only that, they get. A lot of our fees that we pay for our licensing and stuff ends up going into their pocket.
Shame on our non-representing representatives in Washington, D.C. for not doing something about this because they're beholden to big pharma. Let's be real. The big pharma lobby, the tobacco lobby, the lawyer lobby, they're all against legalization. They're all against decriminalization because they all stand to lose. They all stand to lose from the legalization. Everybody does. Law enforcement, everybody. The civil asset forfeiture, everything.
Yeah, but look at what they're doing with the stress levels. If you want to talk about the health of the wealth of a nation, you should be talking about the health of the nation.
I get it. But you want to know something? All of these industries, alcohol, they all stand to lose because marijuana will free a lot of people from a lot of that stuff, and they don't want that. There's no money in cures.
I haven't taken pills in years.
That's what I'm saying. It's crazy. So they're not going to let it happen. And because of that, this is going to continue to perpetuate and percolate. I wish that people would be more pissed off about this, this.
They're starting to, Joe.
This war on drugs than kneeling for the national anthem. Come on.
More of the younger kids I notice these days are into this. Between the ages of 18 and 35 know what's going on than I've ever seen in my life. I probably didn't even wake up until I was about 35, Joe.
That's crazy. I don't know. I just find it extremely interesting how yes, anyway. Yeah, the war on drugs. The biggest Travis Shamockery to ever be perpetrated on the American people. Finally, Puerto Rico. I got to tell you, my heart goes out to everybody down in the Caribbean, especially Puerto Rico. They are in a bad way down there.
That's horrible.
Bad way. USS Comfort's now going down to Puerto Rico. That's a 1,000 hospital bed hospital ship. But it just seems like, based on my perception of things, and I don't know, it could be wrong, I'm just not seeing the support for Puerto Rico like I saw for Texas or Florida.
Joe, I saw a video yesterday on YouTube that they have over 3,000 cargo containers sitting in port untouched, waiting to be dispatched, but they have no way to get them from the port to the stores and to the distribution centers.
Yeah, they're all freaking. I'm telling you, it's a bad situation, very bad situation. So they have fuel shortages, power shortages. You're going to see a spike in infectious diseases because of the sanitary conditions. Don't have running water. It's going to be bad, and it's going to get worse there as time goes on. So, if there's any way,
go ahead. What I'm really interested in is some of the preppers down there in Puerto Rico that have their own way of making electricity, that have food put aside, that have those sanitary supplies. We're hearing how the general population is getting along, and not very well. But what about those few people who are awake and who know what's happening?
Oh man, I wish we could hear from
trying to be sufficient for themselves.
Sure. No, that would be, dude. I mean, unbelievable if we could get some gouge on that. But yeah, I know that the Caribbean has just been absolutely destroyed, man. I mean, whew. Some islands are uninhabitable. Just total devastation. So any way you can support, and I'm not saying support the Red Cross, because you got to find these organizations that actually, like, the money goes towards the actual things that are happening.
Well, if the island can become overpopulated and flip over like that one congressman claimed,
right.
Why can't we just hook up a tow chain to it, to a couple of big
Guam?
ships?
I think it was Guam or Diego Garcia. One of them, yeah, man, they put too much weight on one side. Why it's going to flip over or something. Yeah, okay.
Why don't we just tow it out of the way?
Yeah, we'll just tow it. Yeah, as a matter of fact, it's funny you talk about that. There was a Michio Kaku was on CBS, the morning show, and he was talking about using lasers to control the weather. Well, now there's an actual science. They're actually working on this, utilizing laser beams to steer and direct storms. So, more to come on that, but Michio Kaku was out talking about it. So certainly something to think about. You see these storms go from like a Cat 1 to a Cat 5 in like 15 minutes. It certainly makes you wonder, are they toying with the weather? And if they are, shouldn't we know about it? I mean, after all, that's our air we breathe. And you're using this technology. You're utilizing chemtrails and all this stuff. I think we should know about it and have a say in what you're doing to our environment. I really truly believe that the chemtrails, the HARP, all that stuff is to simulate a global warming situation. I think a lot of the events that you see are the result of the use of that technology. And I don't think it's Nibiru. Because, no, it's just not. That's all I have to say about that.
Now, if something that big was coming in, there would be a lot of information, a lot of static, and you would definitely be hearing about it more than
you would know.
Oh, you couldn't hide it. It'd be everywhere.
Yeah,
even
like
the mainstream
CERN, all that crap.
It.
CERN, all this technology we're utilizing it has effects on our environment. It's just that simple. I mean, I don't know what it's not rocket science here. Yeah. Not just crazy. Stop. Yeah, right, Galactic Pixie. Stop using hairspray. Damn it. The ozone. We're all going to die. Well, that's about it for today, folks. Johnny King, Fish.
Abrogate, everybody. Abrogate, Michigan.
Abrogate, Michigan.
Thanks for stopping by, my friend.
Yeah, no problem, dude. It's great being on again, and I'll see you all later. Have a great night. And remember, folks, wherever you are, make it TFR.
Peace, my friend.
Yes, take care.